What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another exciting and head-scratching episode of Insane Disappearances. I am your host for tonight and every other night or every other day. So, get used to it. Anyway, but yeah, today I'm going to go off the beaten path with the missing 411 stories. I'm going to talk about something that I found on the internet, which is I'm going to start with one of the names that I did mention on my last video when I did the interview with Catherine Van Alst, which once again I gotta tell you I enjoyed that interview. She was such a sweet lady, and she told me that she would love to get in touch with me again sometime in the near future to talk more about what happened, and I told her I would definitely love to do that. So if you're out there listening, I am going to be here. You know where to find me. Hit me up on my channel or just call me. You got my number. But anyway, okay, to start off, this is, like I said, it's a story about a young 19-year-old boy named Joe Keller. Joe Keller was 19 years old when he was last seen. Now, starting off with him, Keller of Cleveland, Tennessee, that is, was last seen on July 23rd, 2015, when he went for a jog in Conejo County. He was on a cross-country road trip with some friends and stopped in the Antonito area of the Conejo County. It was about 285 miles southwest of Denver when he disappeared. Now, as of that point, Keller's remains were discovered in early July in Conejo Canyon by a hiker near Forest Service Road 250 and approximately 4 miles west of Colorado 17. So they said a few weeks. They say a few. Yeah, they said like a few weeks later. So, yeah. Well, in early July. So that was probably like I said, a few weeks later, because he disappeared on July 23rd. So probably a couple of weeks after that, that's when he found, which was still in the month of July. So yeah, that was crazy. Now his remains was a big story too. So, and just the fact that well, I'll get to that part in a second. Now, the authorities, they indefinitely suspended their search for Keller a month after he went missing. Following an effort that spanned a 30-mile radius and included 15 search dogs and 200 people who scoured the area on foot, horseback, and all-terrain vehicles. Now, as far as the other information on him, now the DNA tests have confirmed that human remains found in a remote, rugged area of Conejo County last month, which was, of course, July, and obviously this story went out in August. August 8th, 2016, as a matter of fact, at 6:21 p.m. So, getting back to what I was saying. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. I'll read that part over again. Okay. DNA tests have confirmed that human remains found in a remote, rugged area of Conejo County last month are those of Joe Keller, a Tennessee teen who went missing while jogging in the area last year, a coroner said Monday. Richard Martin, the county's coroner, said the confirmation was made Friday. Martin told the Denver Post that Keller died of a skull fracture after falling from a cliff and that his death had been ruled an accident. It is an accident, I'm sure of it, Martin said. There was nobody else with him. So, like I said before, he was actually on a road trip with some friends, and he stopped off in that part of the county. So he was by himself. They obviously had their thing to do, and he had his thing to do. So he went off on his own to do a little jogging in that area. So like I said before, when it comes to being in a national park or a national forest, You never stray away from the group that you came there with. You always travel in a pack. That way, you will actually heighten your chances of coming out of there alive. Because they always say, don't be the last in line, don't be the first in line. Because the one that gets ahead of everyone will be the first one to disappear. And the first person to fall behind will be the first person to disappear. I mean, they could just be stopping to tie their shoes or to catch their breath or to sit down because their joints is kind of achy. But still, you fall behind even for just a second and you're gone and you're never found. And if you are found, you'll be found somewhere a couple of 100 miles away from where you were last seen, probably in a box canyon or near a body of water, in that area. So, like I said, stay with your group. Do not stray away. That always seems to happen with everybody that disappears. Okay, now, moving on. Let's see. Now, there was a Facebook page dedicated to finding Keller, but it was taken down. But a catch post on the page from that Friday, acknowledged the DNA link. Keller's father, Neil Keller, said Monday when reached by telephone that he was informed of the DNA confirmation last week. Now he's found, Neil Keller said. Neil Keller told the Post, adding that he thinks there should be conversations about improving search and rescue in Colorado and throughout the nation, which is very true. But the thing is, here's the problem. It's not that they aren't good at what they do. It's just that when you are looking for someone and you find them in a weird setting, just everything about it is just weird and you just want to back away. I mean, think about it. If you find a person who fell off a cliff, let's just say he was found a couple of 100 feet away from the cliff, like as if someone just like threw him over the cliff like a baseball, and he just landed a couple of 100 feet away from the actual rocky cliff. So there's a good chance. They said he suffered from a skull fracture. That means his skull had been cracked open, and hopefully his brain didn't spill out, because that's what happened to a female that I read about maybe last year. Same thing happened with her, except she was raped, before she actually fell to her death. But see, in a case like this, they don't mention too much about him being dead at the bottom of a cliff. Now, let's just say the updraft came, knocked him off balance, and he fell straight down. He would have ended up at the baseline of that cliff, right at the very bottom, near the wall of the cliff. But they didn't say where he landed. They just said that he suffered from a skull fracture, right? So that means he was either thrown outward and he landed a couple of 100 feet away, or a couple of feet, like maybe 25 feet, maybe 50 feet. I don't know. I'm not good at measurements. But he may have landed away from the cliff. So that means he had to have been flown a good distance by something with some very, very strong upper strength. I don't know. But still, they didn't mention anything about how far he landed from the cliff. They just said he suffered from a skull fracture after falling to his death off the cliff. So that remains to be seen. So I'm thinking that could be the reason why the police department didn't want to comment right away on what happened to him. Because that is what happened. They tried to interview one of the police officers or the sheriff at that, in that area, and he took his time, talking about it, before they could actually talk to him. Let's see what else here. Okay, now Keller's mother, Zoe, she said last year that she was desperate to find her son. She couldn't be immediately reached on Monday, so I guess they had to wait a while, or that she probably waited to call them back. I don't know. But Keller's family had offered a reward of $50,000 for information on the teen's disappearance. Now, like I said before, the Conedros County Sheriff Howard Galvez, he didn't immediately return a message seeking comment on Monday of that year. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. And that's pretty much it on what they have on that young man. Now, the next one I want to talk about is a guy who was actually showcased in the Missing 411 movie. His name is Dale Stelling. Now they got quite a few bits of information about him on here. They have a little profile about him on this webpage. It was a webpage that was posted on the National Park Service webpage in Colorado. This was in Mesa Verde. Now they gave him a physical description. Now, he was 51 years old. He weighed his height was at 6 feet. He weighed 230 pounds. His hair was brown and his eyes were brown. He wore a khaki colored Mesa Verde Museum Association baseball cap, and he had on some brown sunglasses when he was last seen, and it was round, one of those sunglasses with the round lenses, and a brand. It was like a, let me see. Oh yeah, he wore like a brown T-shirt and tan khaki shorts, calf-high white socks, and Red Wing brand men's Oxford walking shoes. So the fact that he was hiking, I guess those were the perfect shoes for him to wear. Okay, so also now the only items that was in his possession was his cell phone, cigarettes, and his wallet. Other than that, that's pretty much all they found on him. So there's a good chance that, well, they didn't even find him, so he's been missing ever since then. Now, according to the Mancos Times, Stehlings and his wife Deneen came to Colorado from their home in Goliad, Texas, to take part in what's described as an adult-only 21-day vacation visiting national parks. On June 9th, 2013, they were at Mesa Verde for day 4 of the tour. Having traveled there from Four Corners, having traveled there from Four Corners, I didn't want to make it sound like I was trying to get to something else, which I am, but anyway. Okay, now that's when Dale told Deneen that he was heading off on a hike to the Spruce Tree House ruin, an attraction whose path is reportedly steep but just a quarter mile long. But he didn't return, and after 2 hours, Deneen raised an alarm, setting off a 2-week search that included as many as 60 rescuers, plus helicopters, 2 dog teams, and rope teams that rappelled off cliffs in the vicinity. Now, these efforts came up empty, and since then there has been no developments in the case, and there was no way to track him either. Now, since there isn't a federal database that allows access to information about people missing on federal lands, to Heidi Streetman, who conducts graduate teacher training courses and classes on research methods at Regis, and also teaches at the University of Colorado Denver's ESL Academy. The need for such resource is clear. As such, she created a petition entitled "Make the Department of Interior accountable for persons missing in our national parks and forests." This is something that she said herself. Now, she said that, this is what she said. "I started a petition because there is no legal requirement that federal records be kept of the circumstances surrounding a person's disappearance, whether or not remains or belongings are recovered, or if a person is located alive and well," Streetman writes via email. This should all be a matter of public record, but it is not. When researchers or family members request records that are sometimes kept, land administrators have stymied requests, claiming it would cost upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce such records due to manpower issues and costs of copies. There is, in spite of Freedom of Information Act guarantees that federal records are open to the public. Okay, this is just like what David Paulides has said in the past. Every single time he's had an interview on Coast to Coast AM, when he tried to get a certain record on a certain young teenage girl named Stacey Ann Harris, he filled out the Freedom of Information Act form. He sent it through. They came back at him saying that if you want information from our parks, it's going to cost you $3.4 million. And if you want, well, he said if you want one from a certain park, it's going to cost you $1.4 million. It was $34,000. It's going to cost you $34,000 from a certain park. From all the parks, it's going to cost you $1.4 million. Now, also, he said that as far as Stacey Harris's case, he could not get that file because he got in touch with some, I guess he was a lawyer to the parks or whoever. Yeah, he was a lawyer. His name was Y.U. I forgot his first name. But he said that, why do you want this case? And he was like, well, I don't think there's any of your business. And the fact that you can't use that as a determining factor on him asking for that report. Well, still, why do you want it anyway? He was like, well, it's in my backyard. She's near where I live, and I just wanted to do some research. And I said, well, you're not going to get it. And he was like, why? And he said, well, that's not in your business, but you're still not going to get it. He said, well, is it an open case? He was like, nope. Is there any evidence to say that it was a crime? No. Has anyone looked at this case in 20 years? It's not that I could think of. And he said, so why won't you give me the case? You're not going to get it. So it was like, okay. And then they go into this huge talk, and he's challenging him and all kinds of stuff. He's calling him a liar and stuff like that. So that's the kind of attitude apparently they take towards these types of cases. If it's a weird case and they just vanish off the face of the earth, or they're found with no cause of death, and a lot of other stuff that surrounds the death of the person that don't make any sense, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want no information to get put out there, and that's just it. Now, in the movie about this guy here, Stelling, they went to the park asking for help in the case and trying to get some information. The park superintendent wouldn't even come out of his office, making them look like they don't even matter. Yet her husband and her son's father disappeared in their national park. So my take on this is, how can you sleep at night when you know that somebody who is hurting, knowing that their sibling or their husband or whoever disappeared in your park and has never been found? How do you sleep at night knowing that you are keeping that kind of information away from them and don't really give a shit if they wanted it or not? You just ignore them. How can that even happen? I don't know. I mean, that's why I've said it before in a lot of my other videos that my daughter would never step foot in a national park unless I know I was going to be there and I have my eye on her 24/7. Now, she may want to get away and go with her friends, but that's not going to happen unless I'm with them. I will make sure I keep my eyes on them at all times. They would all stay in front of me in a line, and not one person is going to get away. I have my eyes on them 24/7. No one is going to go to the left or to the right. No one's going to fall behind. I'm not going to fall behind. But see, everybody would have to stay in a little pack. They can't be one behind another like in a line. They got to be in a clump. So everybody at least hold hands. And somebody might say, I don't want to hold that person's hand. You know how kids are. But anyway. But yeah, so as far as all the other stuff dealing with this, it says right here, if a searchable public database of those missing on federal land is required to be kept by our government, I am hoping that it will raise awareness of who is missing and where. She adds, it will encourage those with skills to do so, to continue searching for those missing, it will provide the public with information about areas they may be visiting so they can make intelligent choices about their own safety and well-being. Hotspots where many people are missing can be identified and investigated, and families of the missing can have the solace of knowing that that others are aware of and possibly still searching for their loved ones. Yeah, because see, the thing is though, David Paulides has also said on his Coast to Coast AM interviews that if you are going to go in a national park or a national forest, you always have to make sure you're prepared. Always be in a group. Okay, number one. Number two, never get ahead of the group, never fall behind. Stay within that group at all times. You don't want to fall behind just because your shoe is untied. You don't want to fall behind because you're out of breath and you want to drink some water, or you want to sit down for a while. If you're gonna sit down, make sure everybody sits down with you. So and make sure nobody gets up to try and walk around, do this stuff, and go off the beaten path. Like say, I'm gonna go down here for a few minutes. I see something that I might want to check out. No, you're gonna stay right there with the rest of them. Also, carry a gun, and as long as you have a license to carry, you're pretty good. Now, I said this before. I don't know if the rules apply in the same statute as far as having a license for a gun, because I think in like Yosemite, you probably have to have a license in that state. I don't know if you can carry a license from one state to another and still be eligible to carry a gun into the parks or into the forest. So I'd have to look into that, but it is what it is. Also, you always want to make sure you have a satellite phone and a personal transponder locator. And I always get that mixed up. It's either a personal located transponder. Yeah, personal located transponder. Yeah, that's what it is. Always make sure you have those things and do exactly that as far as staying with that group. If you get tired and you want to rest for a while, tell everybody, let's chill for a minute and just sit down, and catch our breath and drink some water or whatever the case may be. Now, some people may not want to do that because they want to get going. So I would suggest you just get up and tough it out and keep moving, because you do not want to fall behind. I'm telling you, that is the worst part about all of this. When you disappear, you never know how to disappear. You be walking and all of a sudden you look back just to, it's kind of like a reflex though. It's kind of like a reflex when people are actually jogging with another person or with a group. It's just common. It's like a common human reaction to just look to your right or look to your left or just look for the person next to you. It's just like a common reaction. But when you thinking already that he or she's next to you, you just look and they're gone, and you look back and they're not back there. That's because this happened to one female I heard about, where she was jogging with a group of people. She wanted to sit down on a huge boulder and catch her breath and drink her water. And the group that she was jogging with went on ahead, and she was going to catch up with them. So she looks. One of the people looked behind her, and she was gone. Just that fast, And this was only after they went ahead a little bit. So the person actually went back to find her. And when they looked to see where she wasn't there. And they called out her name, and it was just a big mess. She was never found. So, like I said, if you move away from a group that you're with, that's the perfect time for whatever this is that's taking people to take you. They take you, and somehow, some way, sound is absent whenever you're being taken. It's just like that theory I told you about. Well, it's not a theory, it's an actual fact, because this was something that actually happened about a skydiver. Well, he wasn't really a skydiver. He worked for NASA, but he was one of those divers from a plane that actually goes above the atmosphere. And he just dives. And I guess they were trying to see if the pressure in the suit would hold up. And he dove. And as he was diving, he said that he couldn't hear anything and he couldn't feel any wind. So, and then there was no sound also. He didn't hear the sound until he actually went through the first layer of the atmosphere. He heard the rush of the wind, the sound, the sound of the wind, and you can you can hear the gravity start to pick up, and then you started to hear, basically we're hearing sound at that point. So I think there is a combination. There's a combination between the two. You have to have all these things meshed together to make one single thing happen. You got to have gravity, air, and sound. In order to have all that, you got to have gravity and air in order for you to hear sound, I guess. That's just the way it sounds, because since you don't hear sound in space because there's no air and no gravity, when you're diving into the Earth's atmosphere, the combination of air and gravity creates the ability for you to hear sound, I guess. I don't know. It's weird, but that's just my take on that situation. I'm not a scientist, so that's just the educated guess, So, but yeah, it's very weird things going on here, folks, with national parks, national forests. And the biggest question of all is how is it that they are disappearing? I don't have an answer for that. I just have theories that match up with how they could have disappeared because of my knowledge of the paranormal and time travel and wormholes, you name it. I've heard about stuff and I put these things together because for a person to just vanish without a trace and off the face of the earth, there has to be a reason why. And the only thing I could think of is that he had to walk through a portal that led to another dimension, another reality, another planet, or maybe he just walked into oblivion and died because there was nothing there, and let alone air. So, hopefully these people that vanished without a trace and are never found are living somewhere, living out their lives, safely and peacefully, even though they're away from their family and they can't get back. They had no other choice. They had to, suck it up, and they had to get out there and start their life all over again. And there's a possibility that they're double maybe living on that planet, or they don't even exist on that planet, so they have a good chance of living their own life. But I'm pretty sure they probably got a job. They probably created their own family, and even the little kids that disappear like that, like Dior Kuntz and all the other boys that disappear, like Yehudi Pryor. I think he was found. I'm not sure. But one boy, Bobby Bishop, he disappeared without a trace. So by him being a little kid, he was probably adopted by a family on this other planet or other Earth, or parallel universe, or parallel Earth that is, and he was raised as maybe who he was. He probably kept his name. I don't know, but you probably never hear from these people again because they probably have no way to get back. These wormholes seem to be pretty erratic. They just pop up out of nowhere. And the crazy part is you don't see them. Okay? They're invisible to the naked eye. So you just walk right into them and don't even know it. It's just like this one story about a cowboy who was going to the market for, I guess, a drink or something like that. And they said when he left, then he was never found in that era. It was probably like in the 1800s. In I think the early 80s or 70s, this man out of nowhere just appears in the middle of traffic, and it was probably in the same area. It's just that he got thrust forward in time within the same area but in a different time zone. He got thrust into the future, and the area where he was nothing but saloons and wooden houses and stuff like that, and nothing but dirt roads. But when he got thrown into the future, this same area was a big bustling city with cars driving all over the place, and he got struck by one, and he actually died, and the only thing they had was a receipt that was in his pocket and his identification. So but I did hear that story was actually a story that was created by somebody way back when. But this is something that I said before too. That story had to come from somewhere. I'm not saying that a person cannot make these stories up, but there had to have been some type of he had to have some type of what's that word I'm looking for? Something had to give him the incentive to write it. Okay. something. He had to have gotten that story from somewhere, and he just turned it into a story. I don't know. Maybe there was a story about a cowboy that disappeared, but he probably added the part where he got thrust forward in time and ended up in the same area, but in the era of a big bustling city and cars, and he just got hit by one because he just popped up right in front of a car and boom, he didn't even have time to react. So I don't know. It's just, like I said, it's anybody's guess on that part. So yeah, that's very weird stories, people, and I have information, not on all of them, but I have my theories. So if you want to do a little Q&A with me, you can ask me questions, and hopefully I can answer them. I don't have the answers to everything, but I do have theories, and I can possibly come up with a theory to whatever your question might be. So if you do have any questions, feel free to ask. You can email me. My email will be in the description box below, or you can comment on my channel, on this video, and I would answer your question to the best of my abilities, whether it's about paranormal experiences, because an actual subscriber hit me up last night and asked me if I could answer a couple of questions for her, dealing with paranormal experience and seeing UFOs, which I have seen both, and I have a slight file up here about those things. I can pretty much get the information from memory, or just just look it up, or just stuff that I've heard about in the past. So if any of you guys got any questions, don't be afraid to ask me. If it's a question about a paranormal experience or UFOs, or even like if you got any questions about these people that are vanishing in national parks, feel free to ask me, and I'll try to answer them the best way I can. And I'll try to use my theoretic brain to come up with an answer. Because I can tell you right now, in certain states, it's not to me personally, it's not these smiley face killings. It's not that. It's something way bigger. And it's something that we just can't even comprehend. And that's the worst part. We can't even figure out why this is happening. We can't figure out how it's happening. It's some sort of next level technology where they can willingly pop in and out of different dimensions to come here. They also are able to kill people without touching them. And don't leave no evidence whatsoever on how they even died. It shows you that they can do it, but it doesn't show you who did it or what did it. Okay? And then you got a creature, which is some sort of predator that we know nothing of, that can devour a human body in just one bite, and doesn't leave any evidence behind except for maybe one bone. It licks the body clean, the bones clean. It takes away all the brain matter, the blood, all this. It drinks blood, it eats brain matter, it eats muscles, everything. It can eat an entire body and crunch on it and spit out the bones. But it doesn't leave any evidence behind as far as DNA or blood to indicate that it was killed and it was eaten. Just like the Jerry Adadero case. I know I bring this up a lot, but that's a perfect example. The only thing that was found on him was the top of his cranium. Everything else on the inside was scooped out, and it was wiped clean. And they couldn't do any evidence on the DNA on what could have done that to him, because they would try to get the information from a tooth, but they said they messed with it so much that they destroyed it, and it was shattered, and they couldn't do anything with it. So that was it. Like I said, the only thing he had was his clothing and his shoes and the top of his cranium. Which was fairly thin at that point. So like I said, people, a lot of weird shit going on here, and I am one to post it on my channel as much as I can with any kind of information, any kind of person that may have disappeared, you name it, it's going to be right here on Insane Disappearances, so you know where to come to. All right, I gotta go. That's it for me for tonight. I got some more names coming for you probably tomorrow, because I'm off tomorrow too. I got three more. I got three more names that I want to talk about that I heard about on the internet. So as always, stay tuned for my notifications when I post what I got to post for you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. All right, guys, have a great night and have a great sleep. Peace out, guys. Aloha, mahalo, and a hui ho.